WWF Mayhem in Manchester happened just 1 week after WrestleMania XIV during the WWF's annual European tour. Billed as the first Attitude Era show to happen in the UK, the show featured names like The Undertaker, Steve Austin, Kane and Triple H. While it looked like a good show to attend in person, the WWF decided to release the show on VHS, and boy, there's a reason why this hasn't been re-released on the WWE network. There's tons of problems with the recording, the editing, even wrestlers in the wrong attires. Let's waste no time as we dig into this video release and take a look at each match on the show. Mayhem in Manchester wasn't available to view anywhere else but in person or on this VHS. The show wasn't on pay-per-view in the UK at the time, unlike One Night Only that happened in September of '97, and unlike Capital Carnage that happened later in 1998. Basically, Mayhem in Manchester was a house show. It's been reported that this show was supposed to be broadcast on pay-per-view in the UK, but the WWF cancelled plans due to a profit-sharing disagreement with the venue, the Manchester Arena, then known as the 9X Arena. The WWF tried to coop some of their losses by releasing this VHS, one can only assume. First of all, the runtime for the whole video is 59 minutes, so we can already tell there's going to be some heavy match editing, which is a shame. There is nothing worse than edited matches on home releases. I've talked about this before, but even when TV matches are put on DVD that still have edits for commercial breaks, it really gets on my nerves. But anyway, pop the video in and the show opens up with this classic Attitude Era TV spot. Michael Cole provides the voice for the opening here that shows WWF superstars leaving their hotel in Manchester. A clip from SummerSlam 1992 from Wembley is shown, which Michael Cole incorrectly says is SummerSlam 91. You'd have thought that this would have been fixed, but really, this is par for the course on this video release. The show starts off with some pyro, and already you can tell the WWF didn't bring along their normal camera crew or production team here. Michael Cole says the night wasted little time in beginning as Jeff Jarrett made his way to the ring, and the whole entrance is chopped up and edited. We aren't even going to see the full entrances here. This tape is a highlight reel. It's at this moment, if you bought this VHS as a kid, that you would get quite pissed off. We are then shown this graphic as Michael Cole tells us that Jeff Jarrett will face the European favourite Brodus. I can tell you right now, Brodus wasn't a European favourite. Kevin Kelly can be heard on commentary, but Michael Cole's voiceover is much louder than Kelly's, giving the impression that the commentary here was done over twice. We are already deep into the match after around 10 seconds as we see Jeff Jarrett applying a sleeper hold, so yeah, the majority of the match is pretty much not here for our viewing pleasure. The editing too, man, it's just cut after cut. There's no attempt really to fool us with smart editing. Wrestlers will seemingly teleport from one hold to another or be on their back only to magically appear on their feet. I am clearly no master of editing, as you can tell by these videos that I upload, but you'd expect much more from a WWF release that you had to buy in a store. There's no hard camera either. All the footage is caught by handheld situated around the ring. It gives the tape a real cheap feeling. Everything is really dark, and while it was a sellout crowd for this show, you won't be able to tell. There's no soundboards connected to the feed either, so theme music and microphone levels are pretty much non-existent. Anyway, after 3 minutes of footage, we see Jeff Jarrett winning with the figure 4. Just 3 minutes. The next match is DOA versus the Godwins. We have to learn for ourselves here that the Godwins are the heels in this match, DOA are the babyfaces. This one here is a case of trying to make a highlight reel out of something that doesn't really have highlights. We are shown the Godwins pulling off some usual tag team heel shenanigans, but honestly, this is as throwaway as it gets, unfortunately. The Godwins get the win after a slop drop. The next match here would have been at least mildly interesting to see in full. It's Marvelous Mark Merrow versus Bradshaw. The Merrow entrance is then cut off to show us clips of Sable signing autographs on the tour bus, with Michael Cole saying that Sable always has time for her fans. Back in the ring, and Bradshaw's entrance is cut out totally. Mark Merrow sends Sable to the locker room, and we cut straight away to Bradshaw destroying Merrow, clothesline from hell, and it's over. The match footage here was around 30 seconds long. Next up is Ken Shamrock and Owen Hart versus The Rock and D'Lo Brown. This one would have been good to see in full, and to be fair, we do get to see more of this match's footage than the previous ones, but still, it isn't complete. What should be pointed out here is Owen is in the wrong attire for this era. This was when Owen was doing the whole Black Heart thing, and you can see here he is in his pink and black Slammy award winning gear. It's odd for sure, as we hadn't seen Owen in this gear since his Heart Foundation days. The match starts with Ken Shamrock holding up a sign that says, "Rocky sucks Val Venus." Yeah. Rock grabs a microphone, but the camera cuts straight away to in-ring action, so we completely miss the promo. The clips we are shown of Ken Shamrock here shows that he was going full throttle. He didn't really care that this was a house show, so good for him. Owen gets tagged in, and we do get a glimpse of Owen's abilities here, so yeah, this match, while still edited, does somewhat redeem things up to this point. There's a botch where Shamrock is supposed to bring D'Lo to the Rock's corner to tease a tag, only to pull D'Lo away so Rock can't get the tag. He goes over to the wrong corner by accident and extends D'Lo's arm to Owen. Owen cracks up laughing, even extending his arm so he can tag in for D'Lo, and you can see Shamrock laughing too, knowing he fucked up here. Clearly this is something that should have been edited out, but yeah, it's kept in. Great stuff. The Rock eventually gets tagged in and does his best to ham it up. Shamrock eventually gets the win for his team after applying the ankle lock to D'Lo. The crowd was reactive, and all in all, from what we see anyway, this looked like a really fun match. The highlight of the show so far, definitely. Next up is Cactus Jack taking on Goldust, and again, the bad editing comes back to disrupt any enjoyment you may have gotten out of seeing this full match. The camera cuts over to Luna Vachon frequently, and when we are shown the ring again, the two competitors in the match are in totally different holds or a totally different situation. It's bad, and again, it's a shame because this would have been good to see from start to end. After Luna gets involved in the finish, which sees Goldust pin Mick Foley, Sable makes her way to the ring and gives Luna a beating, much to the fans' delight. We now have the tag team titles on the line as the New Age Outlaws defend against LOD 2000. Road Dogg does his usual mic work during the Outlaws entrance, but we can't hear what he's saying thanks to the audio work on this VHS release. From what we see here though, the Outlaws are in full house show mode here. There's a lot of time wasting around ringside. Animal looks to be in fantastic shape here, and you can tell he's putting in the work for his team, but take nothing away from Hawk. We know he may not have been in the best place during this time of his career, but he still works well here. This match has edits, but again, it's not as bad as others. The showdown itself is okay, but ruined by the stalling during the match. They were taking it easy out there for sure. The match ends when China gets involved, giving LOD a DQ win. On to the first of two main events, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Triple HHH. Steve Austin had just become champion a week prior at WrestleMania, so this was one of his earliest defences, and to be fair, this is a good match here, just keep the editing in mind. I don't recommend hunting this tape down at all, but this match, along with the Shamrock and Owen Hart tag match, would be your reasons for doing so. Triple H had also just become the leader of the new DX, so yeah, it's an interesting time for both competitors. Triple H works Austin's leg for the second half of the match, and Chyna also tries to help Hunter become champion. The ref gets knocked out, leading to Chyna making her way into the ring, but Stone Cold lays out both Triple H and Chyna with Stone Cold Stunners to get the win. A fun match. It would have been good to see this in its entirety, but again, it's on the Mayhem in Manchester video. And finally we have The Undertaker taking on Kane. The story here is Undertaker lost his ring gear during the flight to England, and he had to borrow some clothing from the DOA to work this match. So yeah, you're seeing the American badass Undertaker here, sort of, long before he debuted the character. It must have been odd seeing Undertaker in this ring gear at the time. Remember, he did just come off a big win against Kane at WrestleMania XIV. It kinda makes it look like Undertaker couldn't be asked bringing his correct gear to this house show, but of course, we now know different. The match here is heavily cut. We don't see much of what happened at all. Kane gets the upper hand for the majority of the opening minutes, but Undertaker makes a quick enough comeback, hits the chokeslam and tombstone, and it's all over. So I'm sure now you have a good idea as to why this isn't on the WWE network. It really shouldn't have been released on VHS either, to be fair. It looked like the event itself was a fun little house show, and it could have been possible had the WWE brought their full production crew and didn't go fucking apeshit with cutting the matches down to fit onto a 1 hour video. But yep, this was Mayhem in Manchester. I can't recommend this at all. Maybe collectors would be interested, and if you dig deep enough, you will find it online, but don't say you haven't been warned.